Hare Krishna. Nana Shastra Vichariniko Nipano Saddharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarno Tribhuvane Manyu Saryana Karno Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Anandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripa Sindhu Pevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. So today we will be revising Nectar of Devotion, chapters 1, 2, and 3. So we'll follow the same process that for today, Nitya will present chapter 1, then I will present chapter 1, and then we will read directly from the Nectar of Devotion book, chapter 1. And we will follow the same process. Madan will be presenting chapter 2 today. So Nitya, you are up.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna everyone. Seeking permission from all assembled devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, to present Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 1 summary today. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. The title, Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service, and this is highlighted in verses 1.1.11 and 1.1.12. Anya Pilasita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam, Bhaktir Uttamam. Pure devotional service is doing what is favorable to Lord Krishna and what he desires. All other aspirations, fruitive actions, material desires, and philosophical speculation should be made a zero. When the soul is covered with ignorance, jnana and karma are directed to sense enjoyment. Soul's original jnana is uncovered by bhakti yoga. Pure jnana and karma are only applied for Lord Krishna's service. Verse 1.1.12 is parallel to the above verse and substantiates the key points of pure devotional service. Sarvapadi Vinaimuktam Tat Pravatena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesa Sevanam Bhakti Uchyate. The verse is quoted from Narada Pancharatha and it says, Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all the senses. It should be done with the intention of pleasing the Lord, free from desires and unobstructed by other processes. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designation, and one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. Verse 1.1.17 defines the 6 characteristics of devotional service. Kleshagni, immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. Subhada, beginning of auspiciousness. Moksha Ragutarat, minimizes the value of liberation. Sudarlubha, very difficult to achieve and attain. Chandra Ananda Visesh Atma, places one in transcendental pleasure, condensed bliss. Sri Krishna Karsani Sacha, bhakti is the only means to attract Lord Krishna. So we're going to take one at each of it. 1, immediate relief from all material desires. Kleshagni. Misery or klesha is from past and present karma and it stems from our ignorance. Our desires lead to sinful activities. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.35 Kunti Maharani prayers. This is highlighted as Avidya Kama Karmavi. Avidya is ignorance, Kama is desires, and Karmavi is fruitive actions. And as a result of the Karma Palan, we suffer klesha or misery. There are 4 kinds of effect of sinful activities. Some lying as a seed, others not yet fructified, some almost mature, and others already mature. We are suffering the effects of sinful activities that are mature, and this can be from lives past and present. How can one stop the bad karma? Stop sinful activities and give up ignorance, and this is possible only by devotional service. How does bhakti help? It removes ignorance, eliminates the wrong desires, and stops sinful activities. With jnana, desirable and undesirable become clear. In Bhagavad Gita 10.11, Lord Krishna says, by his mercy with the shining lamp of knowledge, the darkness bound of ignorance is destroyed. Bhakti removes ignorance, purifies the desires, material to spiritual. Karma is purified. When we harmonize our will with Lord Krishna's will, then all our sinful inclinations will stop, and karma, both manifested in our present birth and unmanifested in the form of sinful inclinations, can also be countered. A doctor gives a vaccination to prevent a disease. Similarly, the practical injection to stop all the fructification of the seeds of our sinful activities is simply to engage in Krishna consciousness. In Bhagavad Gita 18.66, Lord Krishna says, Sarva dharmani parityasya mamekam saranam braja aham tam sarva papeshu mokshashami masukam. With complete surrender, all sins are vanquished. Then why do devotees suffer? It's God's supreme will. He's teaching us to serve Him in spite of our reverses. Sufferings bring realization, renunciation, and draws one closer to Lord. The second is Subhada. Devotional service brings all auspiciousness, benefits everyone and all living entities. Bhakti eradicates sinful thoughts, purifies our heart, helps us rise above the materialistic to spirituality. It sustains all good qualities found in demigods and is superior to all happiness. It's eternal. Srila Rupa Goswami divides happiness into 3 categories. The one from material enjoyment is but temporary. Happiness derived from identifying oneself with the Supreme Brahman, Yoga Siddhi, and happiness derived from Krishna consciousness. Happiness derived from devotional service in Krishna consciousness is transcendental and so unlimited that no other can compare to it. It is said that even a drop of happiness in Krishna consciousness stands beyond comparison with an ocean of happiness derived from any other activity. A pure devotee realizes this in devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami says that actual auspiciousness means welfare activity for all people of the world. And Krishna consciousness, which is working with reaching devotional service all over the world, is the highest humanitarian welfare activity. The third characteristic, Moksha Raghutadit. Pure devotees derive even the 5 kinds of liberation, namely Sahujya, becoming one with the Lord, Salokya, living with the Lord on the same planet, Sarupya, having the same features of the Lord, and Sarasdeep, enjoy the opulences as the Lord, and Samipya, which is as the companion of the Lord. A devotee does not wish for even any of the 5 kinds of liberation. So what to say of material desires? He only wants to serve the Lord. The fourth characteristic is Sudarlabha. Pure devotional service is rarely achieved, not attainable by one's own efforts, even with the great endeavor. Only possible by Lord Krishna's mercy or that of a pure devotee's mercy. Lord Krishna can easily offer a person material happiness or even liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person pure devotional service, as it can control him. Devotional service can be under control of the modes, but pure devotional service is above the modes. The fifth characteristic, Sandra Ananda Viseshasma. For devotional service puts one in spiritual transcendental bliss. It's the distinctive nature of Prema Bhakti. pure concentrated bliss. In Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, he says that I'm feeling transcendental pleasure in your presence when the Lord had appeared and have merged in the ocean of happiness. I now consider the happiness of Brahmananda, happiness of becoming one with the Supreme, to be no more than the water in the impression left by cow's hoof in the earth compared to this ocean of bliss. The sixth characteristic is Sri Krishna Karsani Sacha. Pure devotional service attracts even Krishna, who attracts everyone. The symbol of devotional service in the highest degree is Srimati Radharani. Pure devotional service is not an activity of the material world. It's directly under the control of Radharani. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Mahatmas or great souls are under control of Devi Prakriti, the internal energy, Srimati Radharani. So being under the control of the internal potency of Lord Krishna, pure devotional service attracts Lord Krishna himself. Conclusion, Bhakti is the process and Bhakti is the goal. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Super excellent. Any questions, comments, realizations for Nitya's presentation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everybody. It was a super excellent presentation and very, very well presented summary. And it really helped in recap, what we have done long back. Thank you.
Yes, very good. Nitya has done a very good summary of Nectar of Devotion, chapter number 1. All right, let me also quickly summarize chapter 1. So Nectar of Devotion, chapter 1 is titled Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. So there are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. We have it on the screen as well. Kleshagni Shubhada, Moksha Lagukrut Sudurlubha, Sandra Ananda Visheshatma, Sri Krishna Akarshani Chasa. So these 6 characteristics, they are split at 2, 2 and 2. That at sadhana bhakti level, 2 qualities are manifest. Then at bhava bhakti level, additional 2 qualities get manifest, so it becomes 2 plus 2, 4. And at prema bhakti, all 6 qualities get manifest. So at sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice, the first 2 qualities, which is kleshagni and shubhada, these get manifest. So kleshagni is relief from material distress. That misery is extinguished. You become free from misery by practice of devotional service. So when one is in trouble, we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and we get some relief. So this is kleshagni. But this is just a glimpse at the initial stages of devotional practice. The klesha happens because of past karma. So the misery is because of past karma. The root cause of misery is avidya, ignorance. Avidya leads to bijam, means sinful desires, and bijam leads to sinful activities, leads to suffering. So example, a child who is ignorant of fire or how fire can damage. So he touches fire and he gets burnt. So the suffering is because of ignorance. And the suffering can be at multiple stages. It is either aprarabdha, means unmanifest reaction, which is we have not yet experienced, or prarabdha, means manifested reaction, which we are experiencing right now. So the cycle of this suffering, we have it on the screen, that how does this suffering happens. That starts with avidya, leads to bijam, means sinful desire, then leads to papam, with sinful action, then it's aprarabdha, unmanifest reaction. So unmanifest reaction can move in two directions. One is that the sinful disposition, means kutam, stays and this cycle continues. Or prarabdha, means manifested reaction, means what we are suffering right now. Kunti Maharani in 1.8.32 to 35 in her prayers, she explains, why does Krishna appear? Kunti says that you appear to free conditioned souls of their suffering by teaching them devotional service, specifically the hearing and chanting. Kunti Maharani says, avidya leads to klesha. And the solution is devotional service destroys avidya at the root. Devotional service removes all causes of suffering. So it removes basic ignorance, removes wrong desires, and also gets us relief from past wrong actions. So with knowledge, desirable and undesirable desires and actions becomes clear. Bhakti purifies our material desires by directing desires from material level to spiritual level. Bhakti removes the sinful proclivity. Bhakti fills us with spiritual desires. So bhakti is not a process of emptying the mind of wrong desires. Rather, bhakti is filling the mind with right desires. Now, the question becomes that then why do devotees suffer if bhakti is kleshagni? So, by the suffering of devotees, Krishna is showing the neophytes like me how to serve Krishna no matter what. Srila Prabhupada's suffering so much, Krishna is showing how devotees always glorify him with determination. Srila Prabhupada's obstacles were meant to instruct us to tolerate those obstacles. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada gets glorified. Suffering is for purification. Krishna can remove all suffering, but Krishna gives suffering which is anukul for bhakti. If there was no suffering in the material world, then material world we will become a happy place. And one may give up bhakti. All will say, Krishna, you be happy there in Goloka Vrindavan. I will be happy here in material world. I will do my pastimes here in the material world. You just keep supplying what I need. So for a devotee, suffering brings realization that this material world is a place of misery. We do not belong here. From such realization comes renunciation that I am not the controller. Krishna is the controller, and this results in devotion growing. Devotee does not demand kleshagni. Rather, devotee just demands, let me be absorbed in service. Let me be absorbed in remembering Krishna, which will result in forgetting everything else. The next is Shubhada, all auspicious. That which benefits everyone. Because by chanting, even trees, animals, etc., everyone is benefited. Bhakti eradicates sinful thoughts and replaces with noble thoughts. Bhakti purifies our heart. With bhakti, we learn to rise beyond materiality to spirituality. Modern education or other yoga process are not all auspicious because they fail in development of saintly character. Happiness from devotional service is superior to all forms of happiness because it is eternal, plus includes all other types of happiness anyways. How other happiness are included? Because senses are not idle. Rather, senses are engaged in Krishna's service. So there are three kinds of happiness: from material enjoyment, second is by identifying oneself as Supreme Brahman, and third is from Krishna consciousness. So now at Bhava Bhakti level, which is devotional service in ecstasy, the next two items get manifested, including Kleshagni and Shubhadra. Now Moksha Laghugrut and Sandra Ananda gets manifest. So Moksha Laghugrut means devotees deride happiness of liberation because it's insignificant as compared to the happiness of devotional service. There are 5 kinds of liberation: Sahujya, to become one with the Lord; Shalokya, to live with the Supreme Lord on the same planet; Sarupya, to have the same features as the Lord; Sharishthya, to enjoy the same opulence as the Lord; and Samipya, to live as companion of the Lord. Devotee does not want any of the 5 kinds of liberation, what to speak of rejecting material sense gratification. He is satisfied simply by discharging loving devotional service to the Lord. This is the characteristics of pure devotion. From the 5 kinds of liberation, the Sahujya is absolute no-no for a devotee. The other kinds of liberation devotee may accept as long as there is devotional service attached with those liberation. Then Sandra Ananda, that it is difficult to achieve. This is extremely rare. Pure devotional service is unattainable by one's own effort. Even if own effort is very great, in very great quantity. Pure devotional service is by Krishna's mercy and or by devotees' mercy. Krishna is reluctant to give pure devotional service to anyone and everyone because pure devotional service has the power to control even Krishna. Next is at Prema Bhakti level, devotional service in pure love of God has the next 2 items manifested. Sandra Ananda Visheshatma and Shri Krishna Akarshanicha, as well as the other 4 as well. So while I was describing Bhava Bhakti, the 4th item is actually I misspoke. It should be Sudurlubha, not Sandra Ananda. Although I described correctly that Sudurlubha is difficult to achieve and extremely rare. I just labeled it incorrectly. So I'll repeat. The 4th item in Bhava Bhakti is Sudurlubha, that it is difficult to achieve. Pure devotional service is unattainable by our own efforts. Pure devotional service is only by Krishna's mercy or devotee's mercy. Krishna does not give pure devotional service to anyone and everyone because pure devotional service controls Krishna. And at Prema Bhakti level, the remaining two items of Sandra Ananda Visheshatma and Sri Krishna Akarshani Cha get manifested, including the above four as well. So Sandra Ananda Visheshatma is that condensed bliss. Sandra means highly concentrated, Ananda is bliss, and Vishesha means special, and Atma is, this is the nature. Thus, Sandra Ananda Visheshatma literally means the distinctive nature of Prema Bhakti is very condensed, is concentrated bliss. And Sri Krishna Akarshani Cha, that this attracts even Lord Sri Krishna. Prema Bhakti is so powerful that it attracts and controls even the all-attractive Supreme Controller, Lord Sri Krishna. Highest degree of Prema Bhakti is personified by Srimati Radharani. That's a quick summary of Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 1. Any questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The four kind of personal liberations, they are always associated with some kind of service, right? Like, it cannot be that they are not.
Not necessarily. So, say Gyanis, they are trying to get liberation. Gyanis are not interested in devotional service. They are just interested to end their misery. So it's not by default that upon liberation one will get devotional service. Therefore, devotees deride liberation as compared to devotional service. But if Krishna gives them liberation, devotees will say, okay, I will take liberation as long as devotional service is attached with liberation. And this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.29.13. It's a key memorization verse. I will bring up on screen. So, Salokya Sarishti Samipya Sarupya Akevtam Api Yuta Diya Mananam Nagrahanti Vina Mat Sevanam Jana. Abhishek Prabhu, you want to read the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Translation. A pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation. Salokya, Sasti, Samipya, Sarupya, or Ekatva. Even though they are offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right, so the last line, Vina Mat Sevanam Jana. You read the translation word for word, it says that without my service, devotees do not accept even liberation. But some may be interested in liberation alone, like the Gyanis or other yogis. So it's not by default that liberation means devotional service is attached to it. Abhishek Prabhu.
So, Gyanis and Yogis may also be interested in personalist kind of liberation. I was thinking they always want Sayujya.
So generally, yes, that Gyanis are more focused on Brahman effulgence and they are more focused on impersonal liberation. But we have also discussed at the yoga ladder that some Gyanis may choose to add bhakti again. So there is an option available that they may restart bhakti, although it's a very difficult process. For stopping activity is difficult, then restarting is also very difficult. But it's an option available. Abhishek Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right, very good inquiry. All right, let's start reading from chapter 1. Everybody please read at a very, very fast pace, otherwise we won't be able to finish. Shalini will start reading. So from chapter 1, in the Nectar of Devotion book is page number 3. From the start, you read until the next page where the next topic, relief from material distress.
Hare Krishna. Chapter 1 Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 29 chapter, verses 12 and 13, Srila Kapila Deva, while instructing his mother, has given the following characteristics of pure devotional service. My dear mother, those who are my pure devotees and who have no desire for material benefit or philosophical speculation have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything except to be engaged in that service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me. There are 5 kinds of liberation, namely to become one with the Lord, to live with the Supreme Lord on the same planet, to have the same features as the Lord, to enjoy the same opulences as the Lord, and to live as a companion of the Lord. A devotee, what to speak of rejecting material sense gratification, does not even want to have any of the 5 kinds of liberation. He is satisfied simply by discharging loving service to the Lord. That is a characteristic of pure devotion. In the above statement by Kapila Deva from Srimad Bhagavatam, the actual position of a pure devotee is described, and the primary characteristics of devotional service are also defined. Further characteristics of devotional service are described by Rupa Goswami with evidences from different scriptures. He states that the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, which are as follows. 1. Pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. 2. Pure devotion service is the beginning of all auspiciousness. 3. Pure devotion service automatically puts one in the transcendental pleasure. 4. Pure devotion service is rarely achieved. 5. Those in pure devotion service deride even the conception of liberation. 6. Pure devotion service is the only means to attract Krishna. Krishna is all attractive, but pure devotion service attracts even him. This means that pure devotion service is even transcendently stronger than Krishna himself because it is Krishna's internal potency. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Shivangi will read the next topic from top of page 4, which is relief from material distress, and runs till middle of page 8 till the next topic. Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. Faster pace.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Relief from material distress. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that no one should surrender unto him, that one should surrender unto him, giving up all other engagement. Sorry. The Lord also gives his word that that he will protect surrendered souls from the reactions of all sinful activities. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the distresses from sinful activities are due both to the sins themselves and to sins committed in our past lives. Generally, one commits sinful activities due to ignorance, but ignorance is no excuse for evading the reaction to sinful activities. Sinful activities are of 2 kinds, those that are mature and those that are not mature. The sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment are called mature. The many sinful activities stored within us for which we have not yet suffered are considered immature. For example, a man may have committed criminal acts but not yet been arrested for them. Now, as soon as he is detected, arrest is awaiting him. Similarly, for some of our sinful activities, we are awaiting distresses in the future, and for others which are mature, we are suffering at the present moment. In this way, there is a chain of sinful activities and their concomitant distresses, and the conditioned soul is suffering life after life due to these sins. He is suffering in the present life the results of sinful activities from his past life, and he is meanwhile creating further sufferings for his future life. Mature sinful activities are exhibited if one is suffering from some chronic disease, if one is suffering from some legal implication, if one is born in a low and degraded family, or if one is uneducated or very ugly. There are many results of past sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment, and we may be suffering in the future due to our present sinful activities. But all of these reactions to sinful deeds can immediately be stopped if we take to Krishna consciousness. As evidence for this, Rupa Goswami quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 4th chapter, verse 19. This verse is in connection with Lord Krishna's instruction to Uddhava, where he says, "My dear Uddhava, devotional service unto me is just like a blazing fire, which can burn into ashes unlimited fuel supplied to it." The purport is that as the blazing fire can burn any amount of fuel to ashes, so devotional service to the Lord in Krishna consciousness can burn up all the fuel of sinful activities. For example, in the Gita, Arjuna thought that fighting was a sinful activity, but Krishna engaged him on the battlefield under his order, so the fighting became devotional service. Therefore, Arjuna was not subjected to any sinful reaction. Srila Rupa Goswami quotes from another verse in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 33rd chapter, verse 6, in which Devahuti addresses her son Kapila Deva and says, "My dear Lord, there are 9 different kinds of devotional service beginning with hearing and chanting. Anyone who hears about your pastimes, who chants about your glories, who offers you obeisances, who thinks of you, and in this way executes any of the 9 kinds of devotional service, even if he is born in a family of dog eaters, the lowest grade of mankind, becomes immediately qualified to perform sacrifices. As such, how is it possible that anyone actually engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness has not become purified? It is not possible. One who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service has without a doubt become freed from all the contaminations of material sinful activities. Devotional service therefore has the power to actually nullify all kinds of reactions to sinful deeds. A devotee is nevertheless always alert not to commit any sinful activities. This is a specific qualification as a devotee. Thus, Srimad Bhagavatam states that by performing devotional service, the person who is born even in a family of dog eaters may become eligible to take part in the performance of ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas. It is implicit in this statement that a person born into a family of dog eaters is generally not fit for performing yajna or sacrifice. The priestly caste in charge of performing these ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas is called the Brahmana order. Unless one is a Brahmana, he cannot perform these ceremonies. A person is born in a Brahmana family or in a family of dog eaters due to his past activities. If a person is born in a family of dog eaters, it means that his past activities were all sinful. But even if such a person takes the path of devotional service and begins to chant the holy names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he is at once fit to perform the ritualistic ceremonies. This means that his sinful reactions have immediately become neutralized. It is stated in the Padma Purana that there are 4 kinds of effects due to sinful activities, which are listed as follows. 1. The effect that is not yet fructified. 2. The effect that is lying as seed. 3. The effect that is already mature. And 4. The effect that is almost mature. It is also stated that all these 4 effects become immediately vanquished for those who surrender and to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu and become engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. Those effects described as almost mature refer to the distress from which one is suffering at present, and the effects lying as seed are the core of the heart, where there is a certain stock of sinful desires which are like seeds. The Sanskrit word kutam means that they are almost ready to produce the seed or the effect of the seed. An immature effect refers to the case where the seedling has not begun. From this statement of Padma Purana, it is understood that material contamination is very subtle. Its beginning, its fruition, and results, and how one suffers such results in the form of distress are part of a great chain. When one catches some disease, it is often very difficult to ascertain the cause of the disease, where it originated, and how it is maturing. The suffering of a disease, however, does not appear all of a sudden. It actually takes time. And as in the medical field, for precaution's sake, the doctor injects a vaccination to prevent the growing of contamination. The practical injection to stop all the fructifications of the seeds of our sinful activities is simply engagement in Krishna consciousness. In this connection, Shukadeva Goswami speaks in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, verse 17, about the story of Ajamila, who began life as a fine and dutiful Brahmana, but who in his young manhood became wholly corrupted by prostitute. At the end of his wicked life, just by calling the name Narayana, Krishna, he was saved despite so much sin. Shukadeva points out that austerity, charity, and the performance of ritualistic ceremonies for counteracting sinful activities are recommended processes, but that by performing them, one cannot remove the sinful desire seed from the heart, as was the case with Ajamila in his youth. The sinful desire seed can be removed only by achieving Krishna consciousness, and this can be accomplished very easily by chanting the Maha Mantra or Hare Krishna Mantra as recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In other words, unless one adopts the path of devotional service, he cannot be 100% clean from all the reactions of sinful activities. By performing Vedic ritualistic activities, by giving money in charity and by undergoing austerity, one can temporarily become free from the reactions of sinful activities. But at the next moment, he must again become engaged in sinful activities. For example, a person suffering from venereal disease on account of excessive indulgence in sex life has to undergo some severe pain and medical treatment, and he is then cured for the time being. But because he has not been able to remove the sex desire from his heart, he must again indulge in the same thing and become a victim of the same disease. So medical treatment may give temporary relief from the distress of such venereal disease, but unless one is trained to understand that sex life is abominable, it is impossible to be saved from such repeated distress. Similarly, the ritualistic performances, charity, and austerities are recommended in the Vedas may temporarily stop one from acting in sinful ways, but as long as the heart is not clear, one will have to repeat sinful activities again and again. Another example given in Srimad Bhagavatam concerns the elephant who enters into a lake and takes a bath very seriously, cleansing his body thoroughly. Then as soon as he comes into the shore, he again takes some dust from the earth and throws it over his body. Similarly, a person who is not trained in Krishna consciousness cannot become completely free from the desire for sinful activities. Neither the yoga process, nor philosophical speculations, nor fruitive activities can save one from the seeds of sinful desires. Only by being engaged in devotional service can this be done. There is another evidence in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 22nd chapter, verse 39, wherein Sant Kumara says, "My dear king, the false ego of a human being is so strong that it keeps him in material existence as if tied up by a strong rope. Only the devotees can cut off the knot of this strong rope very easily by engaging themselves in Krishna consciousness. Others who are not in Krishna consciousness, but who are trying to become great mystics or great ritual performers, cannot advance like the devotees. Therefore, it is the duty of everyone to engage himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness in order to be freed from the tight knot of false ego and engagement in material activities. This tight knot of false ego is due to ignorance. As long as one is ignorant about his identity, he is sure to act wrongly and thereby become entangled in material contamination. This ignorance of factual knowledge can also be dissipated by Krishna consciousness, as is confirmed in the Padma Purana as follows. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the highest enlightenment, and when such enlightenment is there, it is just like a blazing forest fire, killing all the inauspicious snakes of desire. The example is being given in this connection that when there is a forest fire, the extensive blazing automatically kills all the snakes in the forest. There are many, many snakes in the ground of the forest, and when a fire takes place, it burns the dried foliage, and snakes are immediately attacked. Animals with 4 legs can flee from the fire, or can at least try to flee, but the snakes are immediately killed. Similarly, the blazing fire of Krishna consciousness is so strong, the snakes of ignorance are immediately killed. Hare Krishna.
Good. Mayank will read the next topic, middle of page 8. Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. Runs till middle of page 10. Masterpiece.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, sorry, from where?
Yeah, Nectar of Devotion, page 8 is Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. The paragraph starts, Srila Rupa Goswami has given definition of auspiciousness.
Uh,
Okay,
sorry,
you
I'm not
find
able to.
Malti, are you able to read?
No, Prabhuji, I am outside.
Chandran?
I can read. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, can I go ahead?
Yeah, Chandran Prabhu, go ahead.
Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. Srila Rupa Goswami has given a definition of auspiciousness. He said the actual auspiciousness means welfare activities for all the people of the world. At the present moment, groups of people are engaged in welfare activities in terms of society, community, or nation. There is even an attempt in the form of the United Nations for World Health Activity. But due to the shortcoming of limited national activities, such a general mass welfare program for the whole world is not practically possible. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, is so nice that it can render the highest benefit to the entire human race. Everyone can be attracted by this movement, and everyone can feel the result. Therefore, Rupa Goswami and other learned scholars agree that a broad propaganda program for Krishna consciousness movement of devotional service all over the world is the highest humanitarian welfare activity. How the Krishna consciousness movement can attract the attention of the whole world and how each and every man can feel pleasure in this Krishna consciousness is stated in the Padma Purana as follows. A person who is engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is to be understood to be doing the best service to the whole world and to be pleasing everyone in the world. In addition to human society, is pleasing even the trees and animals because they also become attracted by such a movement. A practical example of this was shown by Lord Chaitanya when he was traveling through the forest of Jharkhand in central India for spreading his Sankirtana movements. The tigers, the elephants, the deer, and all other wild animals joined him and were participating in their own ways by dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. Furthermore, a person engaged in Krishna consciousness acting in devotional service can help all the good qualities that are generally found in the demigods. It is said by Sukadeva Goswami in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 18th chapter, verse 12. My dear king persons, who have unflinching faith in Krishna and are without any duplicity can develop all the good qualities of the demigods. On account of a devotee's high grade of Krishna consciousness, even the demigods like to live with him, and therefore it can be understood that the qualities of the demigods have developed within his body. On the other hand, a person who is not in Krishna consciousness has no good qualities. He may be highly educated from the academic point of view, but in the actual field of his activities, he can be seen to be baser than the animals. Even though a person is highly educated academically, if he cannot go beyond the sphere of mental activities, then he is sure to perform only material activities and thus remain impure. There are so many persons in the modern world who have been highly educated in the materialistic universities, but it is seen that they cannot take up the movement of Krishna consciousness and develop the high qualities of the demigods. For example, a Krishna conscious boy, even if he is not very well educated by the university standard, can immediately give up all illicit sex life, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication. Whereas those who are not in Krishna consciousness, although very highly educated, are often drunkards, meat eaters, sex mongers, and gamblers. These are practical proofs of Krishna conscious person becomes highly developed in good qualities. Whereas a person who is not in Krishna consciousness cannot do so. We experience that even a young boy in Krishna consciousness is unattached to cinemas, nightclubs, naked dance, shows, restaurants, liquor shops, etc. He becomes completely free. He saves his valuable time for being extravagantly spent in the way of smoking, drinking, attending the theater, and dancing. One who is not in Krishna consciousness usually cannot sit silently even for half an hour. The yoga system teaches that if you become silent, you will realize that you are God. This system may be all right for materialistic person, but how long will they be able to keep themselves silent? Artificially, they may sit down for so-called meditation, but immediately after their yogic performance, they will engage themselves again in such activities as illicit sex life, gambling, meat eating, and many other nonsensical things. But a Krishna conscious person gradually elevates himself without endeavoring for this so-called silent meditation. Simply because he is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he automatically gives up all this nonsense and develops a higher character. One develops the highest character by becoming a pure devotee of Krishna. The conclusion is that no one can truly have any good qualities if he is lacking Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Divya will read the next topic, happiness in Krishna consciousness, middle of page 10, runs till the top of page 14.
Okay, she's just in the washroom. She'll be back. Can she read the
Abhishek Prabhu, happiness in Krishna consciousness topic.
Hare Krishna. Happiness in Krishna consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami has analyzed the different sources of happiness. He has divided happiness into three categories, which are: first, happiness derived from material enjoyment; second, happiness derived by identifying oneself with the Supreme Brahman; and happiness derived from Krishna consciousness. In the Tantra Shastra, Lord Shiva speaks to his wife Sati in this way: My dear wife, a person who has surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Govinda and who has thus developed pure Krishna consciousness can be very easily awarded all the perfections desired by impersonalists, and beyond this, he can enjoy the happiness achieved by the pure devotees. Happiness derived from pure devotional service is the highest because it is eternal. The happiness derived from material perfection or understanding oneself to be Brahman is inferior because it is temporary. There is no preventing one's falling down from material happiness, and there is even every chance of falling down from the spiritual happiness derived by identifying oneself with the impersonal Brahman. It has been seen that great Mayavadi impersonalist sannyasis, very highly educated and almost realized souls, may sometimes take to political activities or to social welfare activities. The reason is that they actually do not derive any ultimate transcendental happiness in the impersonal understanding, and therefore must come down to the material platform and take to such mundane affairs. There are many instances, especially in India, where these Mayavadi sannyasis descend to the material platform again. But a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness will never return to any sort of material platform. However alluring and attracting they may be, he always knows that no material welfare activity can compare to the spiritual activity of Krishna consciousness. The mystic perfections achieved by actually successful yogis are 8 in number. Anima Siddhi refers to the power by which one can become so small that he can enter into a stone. Modern scientific improvements are also enable us to enter into the stone because they provide for excavating so many subways, penetrating the hills, etc. So Anima Siddhi, the mystic perfection of trying to enter into stone, has also been achieved by material science. Similarly, all other yoga siddhis or perfections are material arts. For example, in one yoga siddhi, there is development of the power to become so light that one can float in air or water. That is also being performed by modern scientists. They are flying in air, they are floating on the surface of water, and they are traveling underwater. After comparing all these mystic yoga siddhis to materialistic perfections, we find that the materialistic scientists strive for the same perfections. So actually there is no difference between mystic perfection and materialistic perfection. A German scholar once said that the so-called yoga perfections had already been achieved by the modern scientists, and so he was not concerned with them. He intelligently went to India to learn how he could understand his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord by means of bhakti yoga or devotional service. Of course, in the categories of mystic perfection, there are certain processes that the material scientists have not yet been able to develop. For instance, a mystic yogi can enter into the sun planet simply by using the rays of the sunshine. This perfection is called laghima. Similarly, a yogi can touch the moon with his finger. Though the modern astronauts go to the moon with the help of spaceship, they undergo many difficulties, whereas a person with mystic perfection can extend his hand and touch the moon with his finger. This siddhi is called prapti or acquisition. With this prapti siddhi, not only can the perfect mystic yogi touch the moon planet, but he can extend his hand anywhere and take whatever he likes. He may be sitting thousands of miles away from a certain place, and if he likes, he can take fruit from a garden there. This is Prapti Siddhi. Modern scientists have manufactured nuclear weapons with which they can destroy an insignificant part of the planet. But by the Yoga Siddhi, known as Ishita, one can create and destroy an entire planet simply at will. Another perfection is called Vashita, and by this perfection, one can bring anyone under his control. This is kind of hypnotism that is almost irresistible. Sometimes it is found that a yogi who may have attained a little perfection in Vasita mystic power comes out among the people and speaks all sorts of nonsense, controls their mind and exploits them, takes their money and then goes away. This is another mystic. There is another mystic perfection, which is known as prakamya, magic. By this prakamya power, one can achieve anything he likes. For example, one can make water enter into his eyes and then again out from within the eye. Simply by his will, he can perform such wonderful activities. The highest perfection of mystic power is called Kama Vashayata. Kama Vasayata. This is also magic, but whereas Prakamya power acts to create wonderful effects within the scope of nature, Kama Vasayata permits one to contradict nature, in other words, to do the impossible. Of course, one can derive great amounts of temporary happiness by achieving such materialistic perfection. Foolish people who are enamored of the glimmer of modern materialistic advancement are thinking that the Krishna consciousness movement is for less intelligent man. I am better off being busy with material comforts, maintaining a nice apartment, family, and sex life. These people do not know that any moment they can be kicked out of their material situation. Due to ignorance, they do not know that real life is eternal. The temporary comforts of the body are not the goal of life, and it is due only to darkness, ignorance that people become enamored of the glimmering advancement of material comforts. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has therefore said that the advancement of material knowledge renders a person more foolish because it causes one to forget his real identity by its glimmer. This is doom for him because this human form of life is meant for getting out of material contamination. By the advancement of material knowledge, people are becoming more and more entangled in material existence. They have no hope of being liberated from this catastrophe. In the Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya, it is stated that Prahlad Maharaj, a great devotee of the Lord, prayed to Nrsimhadev, the half lion, half man incarnation, as follows: My dear Lord, I repeatedly pray unto your lotus feet that I may simply be stronger in devotional service. I simply pray that my Krishna consciousness may be more strong and steady, because happiness derived out of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is so powerful that with it one can have all the other perfections of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and even the attainment of liberation from material life. Actually, a pure devotee does not aspire for any of these perfections, because the happiness derived from devotional service in Krishna consciousness is so transcendental and so unlimited that no other happiness can compare to it. It is said that even one drop of happiness in Krishna consciousness stands beyond comparison with an ocean of happiness derived from any other activity. Thus, any person who has developed even a little quantity of pure devotional service can very easily kick out all the other kinds of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, and sense gratification and liberation. There was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya known as Kolavecha Sridhara, who was a very poor man. He was doing a small business selling cups made from the leaves of plantain trees, and his income was almost nothing. Still, he was spending 50% of his small income on the worship of the Ganges, and with other 50% he was somehow living. Lord Chaitanya once revealed himself to this confidential devotee Kulaveta Sridhar and offered him any opulence he liked. But Sridhar informed the Lord that he did not want any material opulence. He was quite happy in his present position and wanted only to gain unflinching faith and devotion unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. That is the pure position of pure devotees. If they can be engaged 24 hours each day in devotional service, they do not want anything else, not even happiness of liberation or of becoming one with the Supreme. In the Narad Pancharatra, it is also said that any person who has developed even a small amount of devotional service doesn't care a fig for any kind of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and 5 kinds of liberation. Any kind of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, liberation, or sense gratification cannot even dare to enter into the heart of a pure devotee. It is stated that as the personal attendants and maidservants of a queen follow the queen with all respects and obeisances, similarly the joys of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation follow the devotional service of the Lord. In other words, a pure devotee does not lack any kind of happiness derived from any source. He does not want anything but service to Krishna, but even if he should have another desire, the Lord fulfills this without the devotee's asking.
Very good. Nitya will read the next topic, the rareness of pure devotional service.
The rareness of pure devotional service. In the preliminary phase of spiritual life, there are different kinds of austerities, penances, and similar processes for attaining self-realization. However, even if an executor of these processes is without any material desire, he still cannot achieve devotional service. And aspiring by oneself alone to achieve devotional service is also not very helpful, because Krishna does not agree to award devotional service to merely anyone. Lord Krishna can easily offer a person material happiness or even liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person engagement in his devotional service. Devotional service can in fact be attained only through the mercy of pure devotee. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19.151, it is said, by the mercy of the spiritual master who is a pure devotee and by the mercy of Krishna, one can achieve the platform of devotional service. There is no other way. The rarity of devotional service is also confirmed in the Tantra Shastra, where Lord Shiva says to Sati, My dear Sati, if one is very fine philosopher, analyzing the different processes of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from the material entanglement. By performance of ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Vedas, one can be elevated to the platform of pious activity and thereby enjoy the material comforts of life to the fullest extent. But all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone the devotional service to the Lord. not even if one tries for it by such processes of many, many thousands of births. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it's also confirmed by Prahlad Maharaja that merely by personal efforts or by the instructions of higher authority, one cannot attain to the stage of devotional service. One must become blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee, who is completely free from the contamination of material defilement. In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, verse 18, Sukadeva Goswami also says to Maharaj Parikshit, "My dear king, it is Lord Krishna, known as Mukunda, who is the eternal protector of the Pandavas and the Yadus. He is also your spiritual master and instructor in every respect. He is the only worshipable God for you. He is very dear and affectionate, and he is the director of all your activities, both individual and familiar. And what's more, he sometimes carries out your orders as if he were your messenger. My dear king, how very fortunate you are, because for others, all these favors given to you by the Supreme Lord would not even be dreamed of." The purport to this verse is that Lord easily offers liberation, but he rarely agrees to offer his soul devotional service, because by devotional service, the Lord himself becomes purchased by the devotee.
Matan Prabhu, the rest of chapter 1 starts from the topic happiness of becoming one with Supreme and attracting Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The happiness of becoming one with the Supreme. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the Brahmananda, or the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme, is multiplied 1 trillion fold. It is still cannot compare to an atomic fraction of the happiness derived from the ocean of devotional service. In the Hari Bhakta Sudaya, Prahlada Maharaja, while satisfying Lord Narasimhadeva, wise prayer says, "My dear Lord of the universe, I am feeling transcendental pleasure in your presence and have become merged in the ocean of happiness. I now consider the happiness of Brahmananda to be no more than the water in the impression left by a cow's hoof in the earth compared to this ocean of bliss." Similarly, it is confirmed in the Bhavarta Divika Sridhara Swami's commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. "My dear Lord, some of the fortunate persons who are swimming in the ocean of your nectar of devotion and who are releasing the nectar of narration of your pastimes certainly know ecstasies that immediately minimize the value of the happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Such a transcendental devotee regards any kind of happiness other than devotional service as no better than straw in the street." Attracting Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that devotional service attracts even Krishna. Krishna attracts everyone, but devotional service attracts Krishna. The symbol of devotional service in the highest degree is Radharani. Krishna is called Madana Mohana, which means that he is so attractive that he can defeat the attraction of thousands of cupids. But Radharani is still more attractive, for she can even attract Krishna. Therefore, devotees call her Madana Mohana Mohini, the attractor of Cupid. To perform devotional service means to follow in the footsteps of Radharani, and the devotees in Vrindavana put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in their devotional service. In other words, devotional service is not an activity of the material world. It is directly under the control of Radharani. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Mahatmas, or great souls, are under the protection of Daivi, Prakriti, the internal energy Radharani. So, being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. This fact is corroborated by Krishna in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, verse 20, where he says, "My dear Uddhava, you may know it from me that the attraction I feel for devotional service rendered by my devotee is not to be attained even by performance of mystic yoga, philosophical speculation, ritualistic sacrifices, the study of Vedanta, the practice of servile austerities, or the giving of everything in charity. These are, of course, very nice activities, but they are not as attractive to me as the transcendental loving service rendered by my devotee." How Krishna becomes attracted by the devotional service of his devotee is described by Narada in Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto, 10th chapter, verse 48 and 49. There Narada addresses King Yudhishthira while the king is appreciating the glories of the character of Prahlada Maharaya. A devotee always appreciates the activity of other devotee. Yudhishthira Maharaya was appreciating the qualities of Prahlada, and that is one symptom of a pure devotee. A pure devotee never thinks himself great. He always thinks that other devotees are greater than himself. The king was thinking, Prahlada Maharaya is actually a devotee of the Lord, while I am nothing. And while thinking this, he was addressed by Narada as follows: My dear King Yudhishthira, you, the Pandava brothers, are the only fortunate people in this world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared on this planet and is presenting himself to you as an ordinary human being. He is always with you in all circumstances. He is living with you and covering himself from the eyes of others. Others cannot understand that he is the Supreme Lord, but he is still living with you as your cousin, as your friend, and even as your messenger. Therefore, you must know that nobody in this world is more fortunate than you. In Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna appeared in his universal form, Arjuna prayed, My dear Krishna, I thought of you as my cousin brother, and so I have shown disrespect to you in so many ways, calling you Krishna or friend, but you are so great that I could not understand. And so that was the position of the Pandava. Although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest among all the great, he remained with those royal brothers, being attracted by their devotion, by their friendship, and by their love. That is the proof of how great process of devotional service is. It can attract even the Supreme Personality of Godhead. God is great, but devotional service is greater than God because it attracts him. People who are not in devotional service can never understand what great value there is in rendering service to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Very good. So we will only be able to complete chapter 2, and that too we may go a little over. But let's try our best for chapter 2. Vatan Prabhu is going to present.
Hare Krishna. Seeking the blessing and permission of all of you, my Shiksha Guru, His Grace, Rama Vilas Das, my spiritual master, His Grace, Vaisi Das, Srila Prabhupada, the entire Guru Parambara, and Sri Sri Radha Krishna. I would like to humbly speak on the subject of nectar of devotion. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. In the nectar of devotion, chapter 2, title is the first stage of devotion. First stage of devotion means sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice. This is the stage where a person practices devotional activities intentionally even before deep spiritual emotions appear. It means training the mind and senses to serve Krishna through regulated practice. Example of practices are hearing about Krishna, chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Remembering Krishna, worshipping the deity, serving the devotees, reading scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, as it is, offering food to Krishna. Through this activity, the heart gradually becomes purified. The beginning of devotion usually follows a natural spiritual progression. There are three kinds. Faith means Shraddha, the initial belief in devotional service. Association with devotees, sadhu sangha. Third is practicing devotion, bhajana kriya. These steps lead into sadhana bhakti, where a regular devotional practice starts. This chapter, second chapter, explains that devotional service bhakti often continues from previous lives. If someone practiced devotion before, even imperfectly, that progress is never lost, and that continues in the next life. Devotional service develops gradually. Srila Rupa Goswami described three stages of bhakti. Devotional service in practice, which is sadhana bhakti, devotional service in ecstasy, which is bhava bhakti, Third is poor love of God, Prema Bhakti. The second chapter mainly introduces the first stage, which is the devotional practice. Sadhana Bhakti, it divided into two categories, which is service according to regulative principles, which is Vaidhi or regulated. By following the regulative principle, one becomes a little more attached to the Krishna and execute devotional service out of natural love, which is Raganuga Bhakti. Devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, and some are meant for executing conclusions of our thinking, feeling, and willing. So practice means employing both the mind and the senses in the practical devotional service. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, the example used in this chapter is a child learns to practice to walk. The walking is not unnatural. The walking capacity is originally there in the child. Simply by a little practice, the child learns to walk nicely. Similarly, the devotional service to Supreme Lord is also natural in our living in all the living entities. The goal of the first stage is to purify the heart and awaken natural love for Krishna. When practiced sincerely, it gradually leads to higher stages, which is Bhava Bhakti and Prema, which is pure love of God. Our devotional service is different from the Sadhana Bhakti, where Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti are pure devotional service. Vaidhi and Raganuga will lead us to the pure devotional service. In the beginning, by the order of spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers arati, but then develops a real attachment. When he gets this attachment, he automatically rises to decorate deity, prepare different kind of food, dresses, and things of different plants to execute his devotional service nicely. This offering of loving service is spontaneous, and this becomes Raganuga Bhakti. Rupa Goswami defines the first part of the devotional practice is as Vaidhi, as follows. When there is no attachment or no spontaneous loving service to the Lord, one is engaged in the service of the Lord simply out of obedience to the order of the spiritual master, or in the pursuance of scripture, such as obligatory service is called Vaidhi Bhakti. These principles of Vaidhi Bhakti are also described in Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, first chapter, verse 5, where Srila Sukadeva Goswami instructs dying Maharaja Pariksit as to his course of action. My dear king, if you want to be fearless in meeting your death next week in 7 days, for actually everyone is afraid of death at the point of death, then you must immediately begin the process of hearing and chanting and remembering God. If one can chant and hear Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and always remember the Lord, then he is sure to become fearless of death, which may come at any moment. So Sukadeva Goswami has recommended to Pariksit that in order to be fearless of death, one has to hear and chant, remember Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, by all means. He also mentioned that Supreme Personality Godhead is Sarvatma. Sarvatma means the Supreme, the Super Soul of everyone. Krishna is also mentioned as Iswara, the Supreme Controller, who is situated in everyone's heart. Therefore, if one way or other we become attached to Krishna, he will make us free from all danger. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that anyone who becomes a devotee of the Lord is never vanquished. Others are vanquished all the time, because that means after getting this human form of life, a person does not come out of the entanglement of birth and death, misses the golden opportunity. Such a person does not know where he is going to go by the law of nature after death. Suppose one does not develop Krishna consciousness in the human form of life, he will be thrown into the cycle of birth and death in 8.4 million forms of life. His spiritual energy will remain lost. So one does not know where he is going to go whether he's going to be a plant, beast, bird, or something else, because there are so many species of life. The recommendation of Rupa Goswami for reviving our original Krishna consciousness is that somehow or other we should apply our mind to Krishna very seriously and thus become fearless of death. After that, we do not know our destination. Only Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who controller of the laws of nature, he knows what will happen. So where we go. The Padma Purana recommends somehow or other always think of Vishnu without forgetting him under any circumstances. This is the most basic of all regulative principle. If there is an order from a superior about something, there is simultaneously a prohibition. So when the order is that we should always remember Krishna, the prohibition is that one should never forget him. The regulative principle is applicable to all varnas, all varnas and ashrams, the castes and occupations of life. There are 4 varnas, namely Brahmanas, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, and there are also 4 ashrams: Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. So it doesn't matter which order we are in, so it applies to all forms of life. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna explained that everyone in the world is always performing some activity. So either spiritual activity or ordinary worldly activity. So however, if the results of those activities are offered to Krishna or performed with Krishna consciousness, then those activities become spiritualized. So activities in Krishna consciousness will give everyone all perfection in all desire. Hare Krishna, please forgive me for any shortcoming or any mistake. That's it.
Very good. Any questions, comments, realizations for Matan Prabhu's presentation? All right, Matan Prabhu has done a detailed presentation. Let me also quickly summarize Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 2. So, second wave is Sadhana Bhakti, which covers chapters 2 to 16. Chapter 2 is titled The First Stages of Devotion, and the key points are Sadhana Bhakti and Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, under which the points covered are about eligibility for practicing devotional service, the definition of Sadhana Bhakti, the essence of Sadhana Bhakti, the 2 types of Sadhana Bhakti, the definition of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and the essence of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So the eligibility for practicing devotional service is that one simply has an attraction or taste for executing devotional service to Krishna. Then he is qualified to begin practicing devotional service. So how does devotion begin? Devotion begins from past devotion. Devotion does not begin from any past or present material activity. But still, some may say, well, devotion has to begin somewhere. So yes, devotion originally begins by mercy of pure devotee, by giving us inspiration or impetus to perform devotional service, and or devotion begins by performing Agyat Sukruti. Agyat Sukruti means executing unknowingly devotional service or unintentional devotional service. So mercy of spiritual master and Krishna is required for devotion to begin and to sustain. By Krishna's mercy, he sends spiritual master. So spiritual master is external. as well as he prompts us from within. So this is internal prompt that Krishna will prompt. Oh, go here, you will meet the spiritual master, or there will be something or the other related to devotional service to that place. So the definition of sadhana bhakti, I have it on the screen as well, says kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana abhida nitya sadhyasya bhavasya prakatam hridi sadhyata. That when transcendental devotional service by which love for Krishna is attained is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti or regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotional service eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. So the awakening of this eternal devotion is the potentiality of devotional service in practice. So bhava for Krishna is eternally present in everyone's heart. Therefore the definition says nitya siddhyasya bhavasya. Krishna consciousness is not an imposition on the heart. Krishna consciousness is already in everyone's heart. We just have to uncover it. Example, a baby already has the capacity to walk, but the human baby does not have inbuilt capacity to fly like a bird. So bhakti is not foreign to us. Just with some practice, it is brought out by washing away the dirt. And sadhana bhakti is performed with senses. So the very first line says, kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavasa sadhana abhidha. So at advanced stage, a devotee may be completely absorbed in Krishna. But at sadhana bhakti, it is executed with senses. Hence, we do not chant in the mind, rather we chant loudly. With sadhana bhakti, the bhava is to be awakened. Therefore, the word it says, bhavet sadhya bhava. So right now, bhava is dormant. That bhava is our goal. The essence of sadhana bhakti, Srila Prabhupada explains that practice. Sadhana means to engage the mind and senses in particular type of devotional work. Sadhana bhakti means to engage our mind and senses in some work for Krishna. Now, if you think about it, that senses are material and activity is mechanical, so a question becomes that how can material and mechanical activity lead to devotion? So the practice of bhakti is not just mechanical. Soul, mind, and body are connected together. Consciousness can be spiritualized by engaging the senses with spiritual sense objects. So Gopinath's Archa Vigraha form is a spiritual sense object that is perceived by our senses. Gopinath's form does not direct our consciousness to material realm. Rather, it directs our consciousness to Krishna. Therefore, sadhana bhakti is not just a mechanical repetition that awakens bhava. Rather, the mechanical engagement of senses provides a pathway for spiritual redirection of our thoughts. Meaning our consciousness gets spiritual direction. This awakens the soul's natural attraction to Krishna. Therefore, bhakti is revival from our dormant state. Therefore, our chanting, if it is mechanical, then it will not lead to much spiritual advancement, or at least the spiritual advancement will not be fast. Therefore, we should be serious in our chanting by developing a longing to go back to Krishna. That please help me return to you. So there are two types of sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti. Difference between Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti is the impetus for performing bhakti. So definition of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is that I am doing devotional service because of scriptural rules and regulations plus order of spiritual master. I am not doing japa, I am not reading because I love to do japa or because I love to read spirituality. No. But I am doing them because I have been told to do so. When inspiration for sadhana comes from anything other than the natural attraction to service, it is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. While Raganuga means one is spontaneously attracted. In Raganuga, one performs devotional service because one has natural attraction to Krishna. If you don't read Srila Prabhupada's books, it may seem that Raganuga Bhakti is pure devotional service. But in reality, Raganuga Bhakti is sadhana bhakti. Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti are pure devotional service. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti can lead us to pure devotional service. An example of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is illustrated in Bhagavatam 2.1.5, where Sukadeva Goswami advised Parikshit Maharaj that, my dear king, if you want to be fearless in meeting your death next week, because everybody is actually afraid of death, then you must immediately begin the process of hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna. So this is clearly an example of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, because the impetus to perform devotional service is not natural attraction to Krishna, but is the desire to be fearless at death. So the essence of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is described in this Padma Puran verse, which is there on the screen, that Smartavyo satatam Vishnu, Vismartavyo na jatusin, Sarve vidhi nishedasyu, etar eva kinkara. That Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never be forgotten at any time. All other rules and prohibitions mentioned in scriptures are servant of these two principles. So the golden rule is activity which is anukul for bhakti, which takes us towards Krishna, means always remember Krishna. Activity which is pratikul for bhakti, which takes us away from Krishna, then drop that activity. Never forget Krishna. So now what does it mean practically to always remember Krishna? Principle of remembering Krishna means to develop love for Krishna. That way we will automatically remember Krishna. Important form to develop love for Krishna is by remembering Krishna. Remembering Krishna is also devotional service. So 7.5.23, the 9 processes of devotional service are the ways to develop our attraction for Krishna. So when we are chanting, I don't have any taste for chanting, but the fact that one is committed to chanting 16 rounds of japa every day is itself indicative that there is some attraction to Krishna. So we just keep continuing. So remembrance is not just abstract. Service is also remembrance of Krishna, because we have relationship with Krishna. If we do not chant, then we will not experience the deepening of our Krishna consciousness. So chanting means we exclusively remember Krishna. Service means we remember Krishna, that whatever talents Krishna has given us, we use it in Krishna's service. So sadhana is internal spiritual life and service is external spiritual life. And the last point is the goal and essence of Varnashram is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. That's a summary of chapter 2. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right, let's read chapter 2 at a faster pace and we'll try to complete our reading today. So number the paragraphs as 1, 2, 3. We'll all read at a faster pace. Archana, are you able to read from the start of chapter 2, 8 paragraphs? Archana?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm outside, Prabhu.
All right.
And the phone is getting disconnected also.
All right. Shalini will start chapter 2, faster pace from the start, 8 paragraphs.
Hare Krishna, Chapter 2, the first stages of devotion. The three categories of devotion service which Srila Rupa Goswami describes in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu are listed as devotion service in practice, devotion service in ecstasy, and devotion service in pure love of Godhead. There are many subheadings in each of these categories. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotion service in practice, there are two different qualities. Devotion service in ecstasy has 4 qualities, and devotion service in pure love of Godhead has 6 qualities. These qualities will be explained by Srila Rupa Goswami later on. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami suggests that the person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotion service can be classified by his particular taste. He says that devotion service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take to devotion service unless he has some previous connection with it. For example, suppose in this life I practice devotion service to some extent, even though it is not 100% perfectly performed, whatever I have done will not be lost. In my next life, from the very point where I stop in this life, I shall begin again. In this way, there is always a continuity. But even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest in pure devotee's instruction, he can be accepted and can advance in devotional service. Anyway, for persons who have a natural taste for understanding books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, devotion service is easier than those who are simply accustomed to normal mental speculation and argumentative processes. To support this statement, there are many authoritative assertions by the learned scholars of bygone ages. According to the general opinion, a person may become governed by certain convictions derived from his own arguments and decisions. Then another person who may be a great logician will nullify these conclusions and establish another thesis. In this way, the part of argument will never be safe or conclusive. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends, therefore, that one follow the footsteps of the authorities. Here is a general description of devotion service given by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Previously, it has been stated that devotion service can be divided into 3 categories, namely devotion service in practice, devotion service in ecstasy, and devotion service in pure love of God. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami proposes to describe devotion service in practice. Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotion service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in the service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge and some are meant for executing the conclusions of our thinking, feeling, and willing. So practice means employing both the mind and the senses in practical devotional life. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. This walking is not unnatural. The walking capacity is there originally in the child, and simply by a little practice he walks very nicely. Similarly, devotion service to the Supreme Lord is a natural instinct for every living entity. When uncivilized men like the aborigines offer the respectful obeisances to something wonderful exhibited by nature's law, they appreciate that behind some wonderful exhibition or action there is something supreme. So this consciousness though lying dormant in those who are materially contaminated, is found in every living entity. And when purified, this is called Krishna consciousness. There are certain prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant consciousness for loving Krishna will be invoked, as much as a child with a little practice can begin to walk. One who has no basic walking capacity cannot walk by practice. Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. Actually, there's no such practice. When we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes by which by accepting and executing them will cause that dormant capacity to be invoked. Such a practice is called sadhana bhakti. Every living entity under the spell of material energy is held to be in an abnormal condition of madness. In Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.4, it is said, generally the conditioned soul is mad because he is always engaged in activities which are the cause of bondage and suffering. The spirit soul in his original condition is joyful, blissful, eternal, and full of knowledge. Only by his implication in material activities he has become miserable, temporary, and full of ignorance. This is due to vikarma. Vikarma means actions which should not be done. Therefore, we must practice sadhana bhakti, which means to offer mangala arti, deity worship in the morning, to refrain from certain material activities, to offer obeisances to the spiritual master, and to follow many other rules and regulations, which will be discussed here one after the other. These practices will help one become cured of madness. As a man's mental disease is cured by the directions of a psychiatrist, so this sadhana bhakti cures the conditioned soul of his madness under the spell of Maya, material illusion.
All right. Shivangi will read from paragraph number 8 starts, Narad Muni mentions this sadhana bhakti, and we'll read paragraphs 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 up to bottom of page 22. Masterpiece.
Prabhuji, Divya will read.
Correct.
You want me to read? Narad Muni mentions this sadhana bhakti in Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto, 1st chapter, verse 32. He says there to King Yudhishthira, my dear king, one has to fix his mind on Krishna by any means. That is called Krishna consciousness. It is the duty of the Acharya, the spiritual master, to find the ways and means for his disciple to fix his mind on Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us an authorized program for this purpose, centered around the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This chanting has so much power that it immediately attaches one to Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Somehow or the other, one has to fix his mind on Krishna. The great saint Ambarisha Maharaja, although a responsible king, fixed his mind on Krishna, and similarly, anyone who tries to fix his mind in this way will very rapidly make progress in successfully reviving his original Krishna consciousness. Now, this sadhana bhakti or practice of devotional service may also be divided into two parts. The first part is called service according to regulative principles. One has to follow these different regulative principles by the order of the spiritual master or on the strength of authoritative scriptures, and there can be no question of refusal. That is called Vaidhi or regulated. One has to do it without argument. Another part of sadhana bhakti is called Raganuga. Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following the regulative principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer arti, which is a form of deity worship. In the beginning, by the order of his spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers arti, but then he develops real attachment. When he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity and prepare different kinds of dresses and thinks of different plans to execute his devotional service nicely. Although it is within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous, so the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, can be divided into two parts, namely regulative and spontaneous. Rupa Goswami defines the first part of devotional practice or Vaidhi Bhakti as follows. When there is no attachment or no spontaneous loving service to the Lord, and one is engaged in the service of the Lord simply out of obedience to the order of the spiritual master or in pursuance of the scriptures, such obligatory service is called Vaidhi Bhakti. The principles of Vaidhi Bhakti are also described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 1st chapter, verse 5, where Shukadeva Goswami instructs the dying Maharaja Parikshit as to his course of action. Maharaja Parikshit met Sukadeva Goswami just a week before his death, and the king was perplexed as to what should be done before he was to pass on. Many other sages also arrived there, but no one could give him the proper direction. Shukadeva Goswami, however, gave this direction to him as follows. My dear king, if you want to be fearless in meeting your death next week, for actually everyone is afraid at the point of death, then you must immediately begin the process of hearing and chanting and remembering God. If one can chant and hear Hare Krishna and always remember Lord Krishna, then he is sure to become fearless of death, which may come at any moment. In the statements of Shukadeva Goswami, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami recommends that one should always hear about Krishna. He does not recommend that one hear and chant about the demigods. The Mayavadis or impersonalists say that one may chant any name, either that of Krishna or those of the demigods, and the result will be the same. But actually, this is not a fact. According to the authorized version of Srimad Bhagavatam, one has to hear and chant about Lord Vishnu, Krishna only. So Shukadeva Goswami has recommended to Parikshit Maharaj that in order to be fearless of death, one has to hear and chant and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, by all means. He also mentions that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Sarvatma. Sarvatma means the super soul of everyone. Krishna is also mentioned as Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, who is situated in everyone's heart. Therefore, if some way or the other we become attached to Krishna, he will make us free from all danger. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that anyone who becomes a devotee of the Lord is never vanquished. Others, however, are always vanquished. Vanquished means that after getting this human form of life, a person does not come out of the entanglement of birth and death and thus misses his golden opportunity. Such a person does not know where he is being thrown by the laws of nature.
All right,
Suppose
Chandan Prabhu will read from the paragraph which starts, suppose one does not develop Krishna consciousness, and will continue up to bottom of page 24, the paragraph number 9. Yeah, continue. I will stop.
Suppose one does not develop Krishna consciousness in this human form of life, he will be thrown into the cycle of birth and death, involving 8,400,000 species of life, and his spiritual identity will remain lost. One does not know whether he is going to be a plant or a beast or a bird or something like that, because there are so many species of life. The recommendation of Rupa Goswami for reviving our original Krishna consciousness is that somehow or other we should apply our minds to Krishna very seriously and thus also become fearless of death. After death, we do not know our destination because we are completely under the control of the laws of nature. Only Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is controller over the laws of nature. Therefore, if we take shelter to Krishna seriously, there will be no fear of being thrown back into the cycle of so many species of life. A sincere devotee will surely be transferred to the abode of Krishna, as affirmed in Bhagavad Gita. In the Padma Purana also, the same process is advised. There it is said that one should always remember Lord Vishnu. This is called dhyana or meditation. Dhyana or meditation. Always remembering Krishna. It is said that one has to meditate with his mind fixed upon Vishnu. Padma Purana recommends that one always fix his mind on the form of Vishnu by meditation and not forget him at any moment. And this state of consciousness is called samadhi or trance. We should always try to mold the activities of our lives in such a way that we will constantly remember Vishnu or Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. Whether one concentrates his mind on the four-handed form of Vishnu or on the form of two-handed Krishna, it is the same. The Padma Purana recommends somehow or other always think of Vishnu without forgetting him under the circumstances. Actually, this is the most basic of all regulatory principles. For when there is an order from a superior about doing something, there is simultaneously a prohibition. When the order is that one should always remember Krishna, the prohibition is that one should never forget him. Within this simple order and prohibition, all regulatory principles are found complete. The regulatory principle is applicable to all varnas and ashramas. The castes and occupations of life. There are 4 varnas, namely the Brahmanas, priests and intellectuals, the Kshatriyas, warriors and statesmen, the Vaishyas, businessmen and farmers, and the Sudras, laborers and servants. There are also 4 standard ashramas, namely Brahmacharya, student life, Grahastha, householder, Vanaprastha, retired, and Sannyasa, renounced. The regulatory principles are not only for the brahmacharis, celibate students to follow, but are applicable for all. It doesn't matter whether one is a beginner, a brahmachari, or is very advanced. A sannyasi, the principle of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly and not forgetting him at any moment is meant to be followed by everyone without fail. If this injunction is followed, then all other rules and regulations will automatically fall into line. All other rules and regulations should be treated as assistants or servants to this one basic principle. The injections of rules and regulations and the resultant reactions are mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, verses 2 and 3. Chamasa Muni, one of the 9 sages who came to instruct King Nimi, addressed the king and said, the 4 social orders, namely the Brahmas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaisyas, and the Sudras, have come out of the different parts of the universal form of the Supreme Lord as follows. The Brahmanas have come out from the head. The Kshatriyas have come out from the arms. The Vaisyas have come out from the waist. And the Sudras have come out from the legs. Similarly, the Sannyasis have come out from the head. The Vanaprasthas from the arms. The Grahasthas from the waist. And the Brahmacharis from the legs.
All right. Abhishek Prabhu, page 24, bottom, paragraph number 20, which starts these different orders of society all the way to end of chapter 2.
Hare Krishna. These different orders of society and grades of spiritual advancement are conceived in terms of qualification. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the 4 social orders and the 4 spiritual orders are created by the Lord Himself in terms of different individual qualities. All the different parts of the body have different types of activities, so the social orders and the spiritual orders also have different type of activities in terms of qualification and position. The target of these activities, however, is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, He is the Supreme Enjoyer. So whether one is a Brahmana, Shudra, or a Shudra, one has to satisfy the Supreme Lord by one's activities. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by a verse that reads, everyone must be engaged in his particular duty, but the perfection of such work should be tested by how far the Lord is satisfied with such activities. The injunction herein is that one has to act according to his position, and by such activities, one must either satisfy the Supreme Personality or else fall down from one's position. For example, a Brahmana who is born out of head of the Lord has as his business to preach the transcendental Vedic sound or Shabd Brahman. Because the Brahmana is the head, he has to preach the transcendental sound, and he also has to eat on behalf of Supreme Lord. According to Vedic injunctions, when a Brahmana eats, it is to be understood that the personality of Godhead is eating through him. It is not, however, that the Brahmana should simply eat on behalf of the Lord and not preach the message of Bhagavad Gita to the world. Actually, one who preaches the message of Bhagavad Gita is very dear to Krishna, as is confirmed in the Gita itself. Such a preacher is factually a Brahmana, and thus by feeding him one feeds the Supreme Lord directly. Similarly, the Kshatriya has to protect people from the onslaught of Maya. That is his duty. For example, as soon as Maharaj Parikshit saw that a black man was attempting to kill a cow, he immediately took his sword, wanting to kill the black man whose name was Kali. That is a Kshatriya's duty. Violence is required in order to give protection. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna directly gave his order to Arjuna to commit violence on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, just to give protection to the people in general. Vaishyas are meant for producing agricultural products, trading them and distributing them, and the working class or the Shudras are those who haven't the intelligence of the Brahmana or Kshatriya or Vaishyas, and therefore they are meant to help these higher classes by bodily labor. In this way, there is full cooperation and spiritual advancement among all different orders of society, and when there is no such cooperation, then the members of the society will fall down. That is the present position in the Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel. Nobody is doing his duty, everyone is simply puffed up by calling himself a Brahmana, intellectual, or Kshatriya soldier or statesman. But actually, such people are without status. They are out of touch with Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are not Krishna conscious. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is intended to set the whole of human society in proper condition so that everyone will be happy and take profit from developing Krishna consciousness. Lord Sri Krishna instructed Uddhava that by following the injunctions of the social and spiritual order of human society, one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as a result of such satisfaction, the whole society gets all the necessities of life amply and without difficulty. This is because, after all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains all other living entities. If the whole society performs its respective duties and remains in Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that all of its members will live very peacefully and happily. Without wanting the necessities of life, the whole world will be turned into Vaikuntha, a spiritual abode. Even without being transferred to Kingdom of God by following the injunctions of Srimad Bhagavatam and prosecuting the duties of Krishna consciousness, all human society will be happy in all respects. There is a similar statement by Sri Krishna himself to Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 27th chapter, verse 49. Lord says there, my dear Uddhava, all persons are engaged in activities, whether those indicated in revealed scripture or ordinary worldly activities. If by result of either of such activities they worship me in Krishna consciousness, then automatically they become very happy within this world as well as in the next. Of this there is no doubt. We can conclude from this statement by Krishna that activities in Krishna consciousness will give everyone all perfection in all desires. Thus the Krishna consciousness movement is so nice that there is no need of even designating oneself Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha or Sannyasi. Let everyone be engaged in whatever occupation he now has. Simply let him worship Lord Krishna by the result of his activities in Krishna consciousness. That will adjust the whole situation and everyone will be happy, peaceful within the world. In the Narada Pancharatra, the regulative principles of devotional service are described as follows. Any activities sanctioned in the revealed scripture and aiming at the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are accepted by saintly teachers as the regulative principles of devotional service. If one regularly executes such service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, then gradually he rises to the platform of serving in pure love of God.
Any questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna.
Right.
There was a statement probably in the previous chapter that even if someone does little devotional, even if someone has little faith in devotional service, all his miseries are removed. Something like that. So I'm just trying to understand this from the point of beginners.
So we have discussed this, that we also discussed in Bhagavad Gita, that on a go forward basis. So if you live life in goodness on a go forward basis, that means you are not accumulating new sins. The past will exhaust at some point of time. And as you keep increasing your devotional services, even the past sins will keep getting wiped out little by little by little. So it's not, devotional service is not like you turning on a digital switch. It's a gradual process that on a go forward basis, your sinful proclivity is going away. So you are living life in goodness where you are not accumulating sin anymore. So therefore, on a go-forward basis, you will have little to no misery. Abhishek, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Shalini.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, but when we take on to devotion service, definitely in the mode of goodness, we are not accumulating or furthering the sins. But the past sins, won't it still be there, Prabhu, till we reach to the stage of pure devotion service or complete surrender to Krishna?
So we have discussed multiple times that when you render devotional service, you get a small cut on your finger while you are doing services. Many of us, say for example, devotees present here, I remember Shivangi one time had to just sit down because she got a cut. So what happened? That was some past reaction that some major negative activity had to happen. But by a simple cut, you put on a bandage. Sometimes you may have to wait a little while. And then you just continue. So what happened? The past negative activity, past bad karma, the reaction to that, Srimati Radharani took care of it by a simple cut. So we have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita towards the end of chapter 7 that destiny you cannot change. So it was destined for Shivangi in the example to have that negative effect from the past bad karma. But because Shivangi was doing devotional service in Srimati Radharani's kitchen at the temple, that major negative event got took care by that little cut. And this is how past karma got written off, or not written off, but the effect was minimized. Shivangi, Salini.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. So I have the schedule of our presentations on the screen. I will fix the schedule. So as I have mentioned that because we are doing the Nectar of Devotion for the first time, so timing wise, my original estimation was not correct. So I will increase the time. We will probably do little few chapters, although next chapters are smaller. So I will fix this, and there are, you can see the yellow highlighted under column C are the spots that are still not taken for presentation. So you all are welcome to please do that. As well as on the same presentation document, you have a bigger presentation schedule. So you can choose. So some of you are still haven't picked up the date, haven't picked up the topic. Please converse with me. Many of you have populated. I will fix this bigger presentation Excel also for the dates and sequence. Once I fix the Nectar of Devotion schedule, because from here it flows to the next tab. So I will fix both of these. You then follow along and pick up your next presentations. And everybody should be prepared with the Nectar of Devotion book when we are reading. You realize that we are almost cut to cut. We started sharp at 7 a.m. Toronto time, and it's sharp 9 a.m. Toronto time. And we should be prepared ahead of time with the book and read as soon as our name gets called. We will stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.